Okay, so in this video we're going to pick up from where we left off before, where we had learned more about how to insert, delete, rearrange, move, and edit individual worksheets within a workbook in Excel. And this time we're going to go into that topic in a little bit more detail, and we're going to go into how to actually edit these tabs. And by edit, I'm basically referring to renaming them, hiding them, unhiding them, and also coloring them. And you may think that some of this is not too commonly used and may not seem too useful. And in all honesty, you probably do not use it quite as frequently as you use the basic shortcut keys like Control Arrow and Shift Control Arrow and other shortcuts like that. But they are still pretty important to know for purposes of, again, going through big models, big sets of data with lots of tabs in them. So let's start off with doing one of the shortcuts that we learned last time, which is creating new worksheets in Excel. And if you remember, the shortcut key for that is Shift F11. So Shift F11 will insert these new sheets right here. Now, since these worksheets are blank, we don't want to display them right now. So we want to actually hide them. And you remember before how we created this area, these columns here that we could hide by pressing Alt D G H to hide them and then Alt D G S to show them again. Well, the same concept applies with individual worksheets. We can actually hide and show these. Now it works a little bit differently. We don't have the plus and minus signs to remind us of whether or not they're hidden or visible right now. But what we do to hide them is we press Alt O H H to hide and then Alt O H U to unhide. And we get this dialog that pops up, unhide sheet, and we see the sheet 7 written there. Now if we want to select multiple sheets, we can press the Shift and Control keys and then page down to get sheet 6 as well, and then Alt O H H to hide them. Then to unhide those sheets, we can press Alt O H U, and we can unhide sheet 7, Alt O H U, and then unhide sheet 6. And in general, it's actually a bad idea to be hiding too many of these worksheets because what often happens is you'll get a big model from a client or a big data set from a client or something, and you'll have a bunch of worksheets that are hidden in it, which can spell trouble. So probably the most common functionality that you use here is actually the Alt OHU key to unhide any sheets that are hidden. And whenever you get a model from someone or a big data set from someone, it's always a good idea to press Alt OHU to just check if there's anything that's hidden. And if there is, so let's say we had received this and sheet 6 were hidden, we pressed Alt OHU, we'd quickly be able to see that there are hidden worksheets here. And again, this is just an area that can actually cause you a lot of trouble if you have too many hidden worksheets. So it's always a good idea to check first by pressing Alt OHU to verify that nothing in your workbook is actually hidden and everything is visible. You can hide worksheets if you want, and sometimes there are good reasons for doing it, but in general, it's actually a bit dangerous to be hiding too many of them because then you lose track of what's going on. So try to focus on just checking whether or not there are any hidden worksheets whenever you receive models or data sets from other people. So I'll unhide sheet 6 for now. Now, one shortcut that you actually probably use more frequently than hiding and unhiding is renaming. And to rename a worksheet, you have it highlighted like we do here. Then you press Alt OHR, and that takes you to the bottom here, and you can rename this to whatever you want. So we'll just rename this to test for now. Test worksheet, we'll call it. So Alt OHR to rename it. One thing to be careful about with all these worksheet manipulation shortcuts is that for the most part, you can't actually undo what you've done. So here, if I press Control Z, for example, well, that would take me back to sheet 1, but it wouldn't undo the renaming here. So just be very careful of that within Excel because whenever you're moving around these worksheets or copying, editing, deleting worksheets, typically you cannot undo it because you're actually changing the structure of the Excel file. So it's not something that can be easily tracked and undone and then redone with Control Z and Control Y. So just be aware of that. Now, on top of actually renaming these worksheets, another thing that we do more commonly than you'd think is to color the tabs. And by color, you'll notice that here at the bottom, these are all the standard Excel kind of gray-blue color. But one thing that we sometimes do is to make it easier to see what tab is what or which tabs contain constants or which tabs contain formulas, we actually color code them. And to color code them, you press Alt OHT and then you see this colors box pop up right here. And this is one of the few cases in Excel where I actually think it's better to use the mouse to select the color you want. So we can just go here, use the mouse, and we can get to this blue color up here. Press OK. And now we see scrolling through that our test worksheet is now a different color. And this may not seem too useful to you right now, but keep in mind, we use this most commonly when we're working with huge data sets or files that have 50 tabs in them. And in those cases, it's actually very useful to color code them so you can quickly see what's what. It's also useful to rearrange them in the order that you want. And we went through how to do that before with the Alt-EM and then the Move and Copy dialog box right here. But to color them, press Alt-OHT and then select the color you want here. Change it to red down here. And this is one of the few cases with worksheet manipulation where you can actually undo your changes. So if we press Control Z, we see that it changes back to blue now. Control Z again, it changes it back to white. Okay, and so here's what I want you to do for the exercise. First, create a new sheet, then hide this sheet so that you're just left with sheet 1 right here. Then I want you to rename sheet 1, and we'll just call this customer data. So you've renamed sheet 1. Then I want you to color code sheet 1. And you can pick whatever color you want. You don't have to match what I'm doing. I'm just going to pick blue for the color. And then I want you to unhide the sheet that we hid before, sheet 8 here. And then I want you to delete this. So that's your exercise. So again, to review that, create a new sheet, hide the sheet, then go back to the original tab, rename it to customer data, color code it to whatever color you want, and then unhide and delete the other sheet. So I'm going to pause the video right now, and then once you've done that or you get stuck, just unpause this, and this time I'll walk you through how to do it and move more slowly and give you the shortcuts for everything. Okay, good. So here we are in our original worksheet, and now I'm going to walk you through this more slowly and give you all the shortcuts that you need. So to create the new sheet, once again, is Shift F11, and we get sheet 2 in this case because I haven't gone and created a bunch of different worksheets yet. Now to hide it, we press Alt-OHH. That takes us back to worksheet 1. Now to rename this, we press Alt-OHR, and we will call this customer data. To change the color here, we press Alt-OHT, and I will go over here with the mouse actually and select blue, and then press Enter for OK. And now to unhide the sheet that we hid previously, I press Alt-OHU, press Enter. And then to delete that, we go back to a key that we learned previously, and we press Alt-EL to delete that. And now we're left with this customer data one. So that's about it in terms of manipulation with worksheets, how to create them, edit them, delete them, move them, rename them, color them. And those are the types of shortcuts that you need to know 99% of the time when you're manipulating them in Excel. Next up, we're going to be moving into some different topics on how to name cells and jump to them, which can be very useful depending on the situation, as well as how to sort data. And then we'll be getting into how to actually format cells, which is a huge part of what you do as an analyst and sometimes even as an associate in investment banking.